Hey knitters, welcome to my channel. My name is Carrie. Here is where I talk about my favorite craft, knitting. And I share with you my tips, my tricks, my opinions, my preferences. And today I'm going to combine a preference with a tip and share with you a great use for my favorite knitting notion, the locking stitch marker. If you watched my video where I showed you what's in my notion bag, you already know that I've put way too much thought into my favorite stitch marker, which is the locking stitch marker, and smaller sibling, the coilless safety pin. I love me a coilless safety pin. And really, you can use them for the same things. This is such a versatile notion. It's one of my favorite notions of all time. Like, if there's a hall of fame of notions, the locking stitch marker is like, you know, first ballot hall of famer. I'm not even exaggerating. I've thought about this way too much. It's so versatile. You can use this to hang it on a needle and mark off repeats in your stitch pattern. You can use this to rescue a drop stitch. And one of my favorite things to do with locking stitch markers is to use them to track increases and decreases when I'm doing shaping. So that's what I'm going to show you today. Now, this is a pretty straightforward video, should be pretty short, but if you do want to like hop around to various areas, of course, I have timestamps below. So let's knit. Let's say you have a pattern that says something like decrease at the beginning and ending of the row every 6th row 3 times. In those directions, there are 3 decrease rows. So here I have 3 locking stitch markers. Each one represents one of those 3 decrease rows. I'm going to take this first stitch marker and hang the other 2 off of it. Okay? We're going to set that aside for a second. And here I have a swatch where I've already worked my first decrease row. You can see the decrease right here and another decrease here. I'm just going to mark my decrease row right now when it's very apparent that I did it. I'm going to turn my work and I'm going to work my 5 plain rows in between the shaping rows. Right here are my stitch markers, and I'm going to make sure those stay on the public side of the work. 1, so that I can see them when I turn my work, and 2, so they just stay out of the way as I'm knitting. Normally when I do this technique, I do use the smaller coilless safety pins because they just stay out of the way more easily, but for the purposes of demonstration, I wanted to make sure you could really see what I was doing. So I'm going to slip this for a selvage edge. One thing that used to really confuse me when I first started knitting, when reading patterns, was when it would say, you know, do a decrease every 6th row. I was like, does that mean that I knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows and then do a decrease? Or does that mean that I knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows and then do the decrease row? It's the latter. So yeah, whenever you read, you know, do this every 6th, 5th, what have you row, you are knitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then the next row doing that direction. So. Okay, I've just knitted my 5th row of plain knitting, and it's time for another decrease row. So all I'm going to do is work that decrease row. Selvage stitch. I chose to place my decreases 2 stitches from the edge, just a personal choice that I made. The one thing you usually want to avoid when decreasing is to decrease away your edge stitch. You want to keep a nice clean edge stitch. Anyway, coming up here to my decrease, I'm doing a left leaning decrease, a slip slip knit. Now that I've done the decrease row, I can mark it. So now I'm going to come down here where I have these stitch markers and just take one of these green ones off, thusly, and hang it here on this decrease row. So now I can look and I can see, hey, look, I only got one more decrease row to go. Now, obviously, if you're just doing 3 rows of decrease, keeping track of 3 rows, not that tricky, but sometimes we're doing patterns where we have large sections of shaping, and it's nice to be able to just go, oh, how many more decrease rows I have? Oh, let me look. I can just look down here and boom, I can count my little stitch markers and know, oh, I have 2, 3 more shaping rows to go. And having the stitch marker on the decrease row makes it very easy for me to know what row to count from when I want to count my plain rows to make sure that I am where I think I am in the knitting. All right, here I have the completed swatch, and as you can see, I went ahead and marked off each one of my decrease rows. One of the reasons I don't like using row counters or pieces of paper is I feel like I can just easily lose them. Whereas when I use stitch markers like this to keep track of shaping rows or just any kind of knitting repeats, it's like it's all right here. And if I put this project down and I come back to it later, it's like, oh, look, I see exactly where I am in the pattern because everything is right here. I don't have to worry that I lost a piece of paper or I lost a row counter. And I love that that information is all self-contained in the knitting itself. Just another quick tip, because it's a really good skill to be able to read your own knitting. If I look, now I know that this is the decrease row because I've marked it with the stitch marker, but let's take it off. It fell off somehow, it fell off. Gremlins came and took the stitch marker and threw it away. Who knows? I no longer have a stitch marker. Where is my decrease row? It's very easy when you look down to go, oh, okay, here are the 2 stitches I decreased. That must be the decrease row. Au contraire, my friend. The increase row is actually the row above where those 2 stitches were joined together. So here's the 2 stitches that were knitted together, which means that the decrease row is the row above those 2 stitches. Oh, and look, magically I found my stitch marker, and I can put it back here if I need to. The gremlins have been thwarted again. How do you like to keep track of your knitting? Do you like row counters or hash marks on pieces of paper? Is this something you'd like to try? Do you have other methods of keeping track of your shaping rows? I'd love to hear about them. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to find out more of my amazing tips and tricks for knitting, please subscribe and hit that notification bell in the corner, which will let you know every time I upload a new video. I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, weekend, whenever you happen to be watching this. Happy knitting. Bye. All right, I'm excited. Woo, excited for today. Excited for the day. I'm always so excited. Should have called myself the excitable knitter. And just another quick tip, because being able to read your reading, if you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your knitting friends who you may think that today, oh geez, I hate that. Today, I'm getting loose, let's talk about a stitch marker. Let's have this more handy in hand. Alright, this is my tips, my tricks. Anyway, nailed it! Did I? You'll let me know. Don't let me know. Just let me know in the comments. Just be kind. Shower me with compliments. That's all I ask.